How many companies did you create and lead to the stock market? At least one, big one?
Two in the stock.
Two ones in stock market, and I think one of your companies is DICE. Still, it's one of the huge networks for talent in technology. It's a $100 million company, more than that? More than that. And you created out of that other companies, always with the idea of networks. I think that is what you...
Well, we were always looking for friction. There's a show on TV called Ghost Hunters. We're like friction hunters. We go out there, we look for friction, and we use networks to reduce that friction, to blast away that friction, kind of like the Ghostbusters. So that's basically the theme of all 3-4 companies, and now also the nonprofits we're creating.
Absolutely, and you should know that Jack, lately, the last 3 years, was very at the forefront of applying social media to politics. You were basically the man behind the Cash for Clunkers initiative in the States, which is, you may explain in a second.
Did anybody hear of Cash for Clunkers? Okay. Yeah. Anybody trade in a clunker? A few? In the States, we had a big problem. We have a lot of old cars, guzzlers, they use a lot of gas, and they're on the road, and so we decided to use a network to try to get the word out that we can bring these cars back in, replace them, and get a more efficient car out there. And so we created a program with the government called Cash for Clunkers, and in about 6 weeks, we swapped out $3 billion worth of cars for an increase of 60% in miles per gallon.
And that shows how Jack is working, with social media really changing rapidly. But we could talk lengthily about all these projects. You had a week ago, you emailed, and you said, I have an idea about a social experiment. Tell us now what you like to do with the DLD community.
Sure.
5 minutes.
And then just to finish on that, the social networking kind of stuff also goes from business into policy and also into education as well.
Absolutely, yes.
So it's very interesting to see how it can be applied everywhere.
And I may say that Tom Friedman just mentioned you today in his column in the New York Times on that.
Nice.
Okay.
Okay.
So.
You ready?
Yes.
All right. How you guys doing? Is anybody ready for a human experiment? How you guys doing? All right, it's a little better. Experimenting with humans. When I went down to NIH first, initially the job that I was told I was coming to interview for was experiment with monkeys. I didn't want to do that. I really wanted to experiment with humans. And I ended up getting that job, and that was good news. Brain imaging, don't worry, we didn't open anybody up. So when we think about networks, beyond just social networks that we know online, the actual networks that we're all engaged in, including the social networks online, let's ask a few questions. Who is this guy? 1967, 69, wrote some papers, sent some letters around the country to get to a guy in Boston. Stanley Milgram. What did he say specifically about degrees of separation in his core papers? The answer is nothing. He didn't mention the word degrees of separation. It does not appear in his papers. Check it out. Go online after the talk. Check it out. Where did 6 degrees of separation come from? John Garr, a playwright in 1990, says, I want to write a play. Although Stanley actually found there was about 5 degrees, he said, that's the alliteration there is not too good. 5 degrees of separation. 6 degrees sounds much better. Let's go with 6. 1990 hits, plays a success, movie comes out, who's in it? Will Smith. Everyone now retro projects backwards that from Stanley, we had 6 degrees of separation. But what actually is going on anyway?
Next chart.
Next chart, please.
Benny, next chart. Okay.
We have a separation between this. There we go. So a lot of us are used to cost per click, cost per acquisition, all kinds of metrics. Has anyone here bought media with an intensity quotient? Intensity quotient. Nobody. Has anybody here asked of the media buy, what is the discoverability factor of the audience I'm going after? Anybody? Nope, not yet. Maybe, thinking about it, all right. Velocity. What is the velocity, what is the rate of change of discoverability? So if Jeff Jarvis and I happen to know Joshua Ramo, but neither of us knows that we know Joshua Ramo, what is the probability that we will find out that we both know Joshua Ramo? Discoverability. Important in terms of depth of network connectivity and intensity. Intensity. Marcel and I maybe know just one person in common, Dr. Berta. That is a 2-degree, but not very intense. Just make it simple, 2 times 1. But let's say we actually find out we know 10 really good friends together. That's a more intense connection. How do we take that into account? That's not the same as just 2 degrees. And so we need a new way of communicating and thinking and buying and communicating around these issues. Structure. These networks have structure based on all those different things. And so we are launching today, right now, in this moment, an experiment with us here at DLD. The experiment will start now, will involve everyone in this room, and it will end as we're finishing up DLD. We're going to find out a lot in this very, very simple experiment. There's 2 aspects of this experiment. First, folks can go to this site. There's also a link off of DLD main page about, in the About section, in case you don't see this particular URL, agent99inc.com/DLD. And if you log in there, you'll find the list of people. And simply click on the people's names themselves. You don't have to actually do target practice and click in the little check thing. You can actually click on the names themselves. And just tell us who you know. Knowing, let's use a benchmark that you've actually emailed or Facebooked or talked in person or somehow interacted once in the past 12 months with that person. We'll use that as a general benchmark. So pop into that site, agent99inc.com/DLD. Check it out. It takes just a few minutes. It's a quick thing. You pop it in, pick 10, 20, whatever number of people that you am to know in that benchmark, and we're going to get a lot of interesting data from that. As a reward, by the way, for every time someone submits, we're giving a donation to IRC, International Rescue Committee, for their Haiti work happening right now. If we reach 50% participation, we're doubling that.
Bravo!
So you're doing good by actually going online. How do you log in? Take your first initial and your last name, like Yvardi. The password is pass123. And by noon tomorrow, try to have this done. We want to start compiling and crunching the numbers by noon tomorrow. So take down agent99inc.com, just a blank website. There's nothing else there. There's no company there. Just a blank URL will be found. /DLD, and check that out. Take a few minutes, and you'll be helping Haiti and us. Second part to this experiment. Here are 3 words. We have seated in the audience, in the DLD membership, meme viral spreaders. And each of these people is going to try to convince you and everyone in their particular network that one of these 3 words is the code word for the new Apple tablet. They have to, for the Apple tablet, they have to convince other people in their networks. I don't care if it's face-to-face or Twitter or jumping on them or wrestling them, whatever it is. They're going to try to convince them that Binti or Woozle or Yandle is the code word. Don't try to cheat by calling someone an apple. This is so coded and so stealth, even they don't know. And so at the end, we're going to find out not just the structure of the network from the first part of the experiment, we're going to understand more, combining that with this information about how things move, how transition moves around this particular community. We're going to use it as a benchmark, and there'll be other things we do, a lot of fun things after that. So that is the basic experiment. You can go send your answers for the Binti and other things to DLDinfo, Berta.com. You can use this hashtag, such as Binti as an example. And you can go to this site to start the experiment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.